Jesus James Angleton, the way you spin that story round. Always sharp, just like a tack when you're tracking the price of the dollar and pound. Ow! But drop the narrative, that thing that you inherited. Your history homos chariot just pulled up outside. Scott, William, Patrick on the scene, they're breaking up the subroutine. Something's crackling in your brain, MK Ultra make you go insane. Hey, don't you know we're only on the case for a good time, baby? Took a Rhodes pill, now I'm reading these books for a long time, baby. Honey pots and psyop traps, you can trust the plan until you snap. Slop conspiracy everywhere. History homos clear the air. Close your eyes, what's truth or lie? Hiding in the space between. Reality's a tangled scene. Tune in, you'll know what I mean. Close your eyes, what's truth or lie? Hiding in the space between. Reality's a tangled scene. Tune in, you'll know what I mean. Hey, history homos only on the case for a good time, baby. Took a Rhodes pill, now I'm reading these books for a long time, baby.
And we're live. Welcome back to the show. This week, Patrick and I will be discussing the Atlantis, lost continent of Atlantis. Fact or fiction?
Or fucking stupid.
Yeah, well,
Or
here's the
third.
thing. I think I haven't actually made my mind up. I mean, I'll get into what I mean by that as we go through it, of course, but I haven't really made my mind up about how much I believe in Atlantis here, and or to what extent I believe in Atlantis.
Plato didn't believe enough in Atlantis to even finish the freaking book.
I know, well,
The trilogy.
I love the way that it ends, yeah. But yeah. So Atlantis, most people, when I say Atlantis, something obviously probably springs to your mind. For many people, it's
The Disney film.
yeah, I was gonna actually bring the Disney film up. Yeah, that was a pretty well animated cartoon, And
Mhm.
yeah, it was like a cult hit of some kind. So a lot of people think of that. A lot of people will probably think about like the Marvel character, right? Isn't that, or is that DC? I don't know. Or the comic book character Aquaman, who's from Atlantis.
I
Yeah,
forgotten about that. Well, forgotten. That was never anywhere in the files of my mind. Uh,
right.
Anything about Aquaman.
And
But
but yeah, so the interesting thing about Atlantis is like it wasn't really part of the broader pop culture consciousness until like the late 1800s, like the late 1900s, when that guy, that failed US
Ignatius,
congressman guy, what was that guy's name?
Ignatius T or P Donnelly.
Yeah, it's whatever, Ignatius Donnelly. Yeah. And yeah, so he was just like a washed up, like failed at everything he tried to do, and then he suddenly was like, I want to write a book about Atlantis. And it's a fucking huge hit. And that's like sort of the origin of it. Like, so we'll get into all the other crazy actual weird obsession with Atlantis that is in the like weird esoteric circles, of course. But like actually as far as people knowing about Atlantis and having like a conception of like a lost city or whatever, it's this guy Donnelly, who is an American, like sort of popularizing it by being like the first schizo rightoid conspiracy guy
And
in history.
for those who think, no, it's just just a character of the times. Everyone was
Yeah,
dumb and no one was, clever enough to look into, spurious claims made by whoever was rolling through town. But
right.
in case you're doubting this man's bona fides, he also wrote a book about how Shakespeare is not a real person and it was all written by Francis Bacon. I'll take it. I like
Yeah.
it. I'm with it because
Yeah.
Francis Bacon plays into the resurgence of
I
Atlantis.
think I think that is the connection is there for a reason. Yeah, I mean with Donnelly at least, he's
Right.
obviously really interested in Francis Bacon in general, which led him into the Atlantis thing. But so
Not
yeah,
the
that
kind of
was the
guy
other thing
you
I want
think.
to talk about. Atlantis is like, so also Thomas More is like an interesting figure within like, how did he become a saint, by the way?
Ugh, how else? The Catholic Church. What do you mean?
Yeah.
They pick the doofiest of, that's
But anyway, so we have lots and lots and lots to cover. But so so I mentioned that's sort of like the entryway into pop culture was like all the way in the almost the 20th century. But the origin of the written word and its first reference in history was all the way back in let's see exactly what
360.
year it was. Yeah, it would be it's okay, 360. 360 years before our Lord.
Uh,
In
60s.
the Athenian philosopher Plato, upon returning to Athens from Sicily, worth noting.
Real
Um,
grease ball shit.
Well, yeah, I think it might have been a little greaseball shit going on there actually, because that was like an inspiration. Him going to Sicily apparently was like him having like a nautical experience. Got the idea. I mean, it potentially could have had an impact on him wanting to write about this.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, so anyone
Yeah,
who's
well,
familiar, I've read a bit of Plato, not a ton. I've read a bit
mhm.
of Plato. And he does one thing I actually kind of appreciate about him is that when he writes stuff, he doesn't go, here's what my thoughts as Plato are. Um,
Right.
that would have sucked if he did that. So whenever he writes something, it's like it's presented as like a conversation between two guys in
Mhm.
which it
They say
his
exactly
thoughts.
what Plato wants to
Of
say.
course, yes,
Yeah.
but it's a little, I think it's a little more humble. And a lot of it is attributed to Socrates, mind you, also,
Right, right.
who
And
was
it
his
is,
his his teacher.
and it is helpful. I mean, the idea of, ideas long before they were, dictated to you from the page, you had to be convinced of them in person. So what better way to make, the academics of today could learn a thing or two of how to,
Yeah, it's approachable. Yeah, I think is what you're trying to say. Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
more clear than
and
what I
also
can say. So,
I would say that I think the way that it's written, because as I understand it, he was like the guy to write it down, and it's sort of based off of this wealth of knowledge that has been passed orally in tradition to him, correct? Is
sort
that
of
fair
so
to
am I.
say?
Yeah. Well, yeah, he pretty much is kind of the dam that broke for, hundreds or however many years of
Right. Of
philosophy.
philosophical tradition or whatever. But
It's not in philosophy wasn't invented with the Greeks. I don't know what Solomon was doing, in that big
yeah,
chamber of his, but
demonosophy.
yeah, well, funny you say that. Um, yeah, the Plato, and it's funny because it begins and it ends with Plato. I found this really great quote about Atlantis from Aristotle, and he literally mentioned it, I think, twice in all of his
Mm,
works. The
yeah.
student of Plato mentions Atlantis twice, and in one instance, it was to say the man who built it destroyed it, which
Aristotle said that about Plato.
about Atlantis. Let me see if no, it's literally he who created it destroyed it. That's it. So
Right.
what's that? What do you take from that? You know?
Okay, well, I can take it on two levels. Well, first of
Right.
all, we should say what Atlantis is supposed to be is. It's supposed to be a city that was founded by Poseidon,
Right. It's
who
the
is the
capital
god of the
city,
sea.
the capital city of the Atlantean kingdom, which is comprised of empire, which is comprised of 10 kingdoms,
Right.
with their own kings. I guess Atlas was the first king, and
Yes.
so uh,
Atlas being a direct descendant of Poseidon. So, but it's worth saying that he who created it, one that you could attribute that to Poseidon, I guess, on a metaphor. Like that's one level that's obviously that was meant to be taken. Is that Poseidon created it and then eventually he sucked it back into the water and ergo he destroyed it. Now I see what you're saying now is that he who created it destroyed it. Plato not only created it within his mind and within the if you're gonna take it on the non-literal level,
hmm,
um he created it, conjured it up in his imagination, perhaps, and also destroyed it because I mean he literally within his own imagination said, yeah, it was born and then it died.
mhm.
So there's multiple levels you can take this. You can take it on the level that Plato was, and which as he did, by the way, Plato is not known for, or is known for, saying a true story. Like there are stories that Plato just faithfully reports in his writing.
Right.
Now, of course, that said, the historicity of all these stories, some of them are semi-mythological, but he believed they were true. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Or portrayed them as seriously. Yeah.
But yes, exactly. So there's a story that is clearly not true, or at least has been embellished through oral retellings.
I
Um,
this before somewhere. It was oh, Fargo,
yeah.
right? It's just you can just say these events are true, this really happened, and
Oh,
really straight face to your audience, whether, unfortunately, or for whatever way however it goes, folks, the author is not uh obligated to tell you the
yeah.
truth. Um,
Truly, truly.
yeah, even when
Particularly if you're engaging with like a really enduring piece of literature, I guess,
because I
which it
mean,
clearly is thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
but the thing is this, like what's true and what's factual, we can get you can call it semantics, but there could be a difference. True with a capital T is it can be metaphorical, it can be allegorical, but it can align and parallel so many other close instances or situations in history that you'd have to be uh you have to be totally what's the word? Incorrigible. What? You'd have to be totally arrogant to not take
Yeah.
the
That's
less.
I'm glad you settled on arrogant. I think that's apt.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, so okay, well, let's say what Plato had to say about it before we start picking it apart.
it's fair. Let's give the man to stay in court.
Yeah, for sure. So okay, Plato says that a guy named Solon, who is a at least semi-historical figure, there's other accounts of this guy named Solon. It's not just we're not just taking Plato's word that he existed. Um,
Like grandfather or something, 6 times removed.
Whatever. They all say this kind of shit. Yeah, and sure, and fucking and Romulus and Remus are related to fucking the Iliad guy or whatever.
Well, I mean, what's it called? Emilio Estevez is related to Charlie Sheen.
Who knew? I know.
Hey, surprise. So yeah, he however much credibility he wants to
Bestow on Solon. Solon says, "Hey, I just got back from or it's actually a story, it's a conversation between a guy named hang on, let's see what these guys' names are. Timaeus and Critias. So Timaeus and Critias are chatting, and he goes, "Hey, Solon got back from Egypt, and he says that he hears tell of an island or a continent empire, if you will, as Patrick just alluded to previously, that is on from now. This is important west, or is it west outside? No, it's I believe it's outside of the gates of Heraclitus,
yes,
which is also known as Hercules and all this other in other nomenclatures.
to the west of
Um,
the Pillars of Hercules, which I mean, the thing is though, there are at least 2 or 3 places throughout the world that are
yeah, of
named.
course, that are known that. Yeah,
Um,
so that'll come into play later, obviously. And yeah, a landmass where there's elephants and oh, it's the size of Libya and Africa combined, which is an interesting pairing.
okay. Then
Though actually, as I understand it, Africa is like a certain region of what we now call Africa, I guess, because Libya is what it is vaguely in the same area that we call Libya, I suppose. But
okay.
either way, so he's saying it's quite large, and it also has like elephants, and it has an ore, a magical, almost mystical ore called auric alchemy.
Mm.
And it's there's in the capital city, which is the place where Poseidon abodes with his girlfriend, who is the mother of the city, I guess.
His baby
Um,
mom.
the city's baby mama. And it's at the center of the city, which has is a series of concentric circles,
Hmm.
in which
Southward.
they get bigger as they go outwards,
Hmm.
and within the reaches of this, um, are the amount of space that 7 or 10 kingdoms,
10.
10 kingdoms, which
For
all
the
pledge.
price of one.
I know, and it's all crammed. It's kind of honestly a pretty doesn't seem like a good way to run things, to be in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a lot of you gotta take the
Seems like a lot of
ferry.
bureaucracy.
Yeah, and so it's these, I believe, 3 rings of land and water within separating them, and a outlet to the south to the sea, so Plato says. Um, and I guess we have a few. We won't get into where this is yet, because I don't know if you
Yeah,
want to
that
get.
we'll save that for later. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you can just picture it in your head to the best of your imagination, um, is
Oh,
it?
I'll put some depictions, some early depictions of it in the into the thumbnail. So refer to the thumbnail.
So, and Plato goes initially in the Timaeus, he goes more into just the end of Atlantis, and it's it's sinking into the sea in one day and one night.
Yeah.
Um, Only in the Critias do we get more. We really don't get if all this stuff. Earlier I mentioned the Disney movie, all this shit about crystals and flying around, and this is all
Yeah.
Edgar Casey,
Yeah,
and not even like big names that people who are into this may know, like Helena
Blavatsky.
Blavatsky.
Yeah,
She wasn't talking about them zooming around in like Mitsubishi AirPods or whatever the hell.
yeah.
Like
These aren't Nibiru. I mean, I guess she probably did think they were Nibiruans.
she thought them to be some sort of olive skinned like
Yeah,
what do you call it, almond,
Mongol race.
yeah, mongoloids, there you go. So so we have to focus primarily on what Plato said, and it's
Right.
not much. It's
Oh,
mostly about the decimation of Atlantis at the hands of you see, I'm trying not to confuse bullshit from like Edgar Casey, because
yeah.
Casey says there were different belief systems. One that was um, uh, they believed in one God, and
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's not from the original Plato stuff. Yeah. So,
not, yeah.
no,
He
what I
won't.
believe Plato said was it was that they got like too avaristic,
Mm.
and they decided to attack Athens, and they got their ass handed to them, I believe.
Serves him well. That's quite the story to tell 11,000 years later, when Athens is trying to, keep its self-respect. Uh, because I have right here in my notes that the Egyptian story told to Solon states that there was an Athenian empire as far back then as well.
Yes,
But
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
yeah. So kind of a like like retrospective.
Yeah, we
By the way,
rule. Yeah, a little bit of petty nationalism.
yes, yeah, dude. And it goes into it in the Critias how the decision to sink Atlantis was made like what by a committee, what by the Pantheon, the demigods
Yeah.
convened. Um, let's see here. Yeah, it. Bah, bah, bah. I don't know if yeah it and it sank in the day and the night, and there
And then it
were.
became mud. It became like a mud flow.
Yeah, for the and it would forever be un impassable.
Impassable. It made the Atlantic Ocean, which is again, I don't even think so. Here's the thing for Plato, I don't know that Plato or anyone related to Plato had gone much farther than actually what we know as what many people contend to be the pillars of Heracles in
Hmm.
question, which is the Strait of Gibraltar. So I don't know that they had a great idea of how much was out there. Um, he says that Atlantis sinking there made the Atlantic Ocean impassable. And by the way, it's worth mentioning here that we do call it the Atlantic Ocean because of Atlantis.
Yeah,
That's where it comes from. Atlas, the king of Atlantis, ergo the Atlantic Ocean.
I mean the the idea that there was back then that there was somewhere that you could not go, totally believable.
Sure.
Now we have a hard time believing that. But
Try to go to fucking Antarctica,
try
bro.
to go to Antarctica. Yeah, I'm gonna refrain from just my reflexive, the maps ain't big enough. I need to know. Show me the wall. I need to kiss the
They
walls. Yeah,
shrink. Yo, man, they shrink Africa on the maps.
they did, man.
Shit.
They shrunk Africa. Um, uh, like they
Trying to
shrunk
make you
little
think we
heads.
smaller.
Oh man, dude. Um, the yeah, I'm no cartographer, okay?
Yes, obviously not.
But hey, it looks flat to me when I lay it down on the table. That's all I'm gonna say.
There you go.
Yeah,
Um,
I won't dare give any gas to the round earth theory on this program.
good,
Not,
good. I'm glad. Yeah.
not while the blood rushes in my veins.
Yeah, but okay, so what happens to so Atlantis sinks though,
Eats
basically. But
shit.
but the point is that he makes it the thing that's important is that they became like debased and they like intermingled too much with the like with there was not enough divine like it's a racial purity story, really. Um and I'm not being just glib here. It kind of is
Yeah.
because I mean he talks about how like the founders of the city are racially pure with the blood of Poseidon or whatever, and he goes with those with the eyes to see could see them debased from their previous glory. I
Well,
think that's almost a direct quote if I'm not mistaken.
you know better than me. Did Plato ascribe psychic and supernatural abilities to the Atlanteans?
He did not.
No.
He said
So yeah.
they were like he basically treated them like Tolkien does like the dwarves. He's like they were very industrious. You know what I mean? Like they had their crafts were amazing the world over. People were
Yeah.
astonished by their craftsmanship,
Mm. And see,
and they commanded men in many lands and stuff like that. They and you know sort of like upped them for their you know sort of military slash diplomatic prowess, I guess.
is that the Platonic canon that they were a mercantile type
Yes,
empire? Right.
correct.
Yeah. It
And
was
but here's the thing. So that's this is where this leads to what I think ultimately is my my take, by the way, is that it is sort of an allegorical thing. But the Plato's basically what he's trying to do is say is like they don't have like he's contrasting it with his ideal society which is embodied maybe only metaphorically and not in reality, but the way that he'd like to tell the story through his pen
mm,
is that Athens is like an ideal utopia almost with a republic that is, you know, it equally shares the burden of the governance and blah blah blah. Oh, but
mm.
only the finest men and blah blah blah. So regardless, he wanted to contrast this with you know, he said but basically the idea was like even with the like the idea the mental what's the word here? Exercise that he's doing it basically is like so even like a city that is like awesome, it's kicking ass, and it even has like a touch of the gods without the perfect you know philosophy and like a political arrangement, even that will fall to a superiorly organized you know society, you know what I mean?
Um, how literally, I mean, how literally do you think Plato took the sinking into the sea as a threat to his own, you know, did was Plato superstitious is the question I'm asking. Did he
I
think
don't
that
know. I'd have to read a little more about it, but I
right?
think he's like almost like the an atheist of the day,
Hmm.
sort of, where he like was like no, but God like I think his one of his big contributions is like God is truth, but he mean that like literally. Like when we say God is truth, it's like whatever's true is godly, whatever.
Oh,
But when he says it, he's like literally like truth is God. Like what you think of as God is just truth to me, yo. I'm just like I'm that fucking high IQ. Like that's what his POV is. I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm fucking wrong about this.
sip on that guy's cup. He knows what's going on. That's the good wine. I think
Drinking on that hemlock pack.
smoking on the hemlock, saying what's what. Uh, he whether or not he took the gods man what made probably I don't know what made people brilliant in that day was understanding uh what puts you a step ahead in any time is understanding that the gods lowercase g plural
Yeah.
uh throughout any time are representative of the prevailing passions of a community and a culture I think.
Yeah,
And
for sure. I think that yeah, I think probably Plato understood that fairly well too.
yeah, so Atlantis totally rides as a allegory for a I don't know, an empire that,
Fallen kingdom, I guess, is really what he's trying to tell the parable of.
and yeah, how aware of his own, it's like, do you know the time you're living in and the importance of it, when you're in it. There's a cat in my clawing me. The whole, he probably knew that Athens, as um as scientific in its thought as it was becoming, it was still prone to, religious thinking. And
Superstitious. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so, but that, even in the most literal mind, even in the most empirical mind, you still go off of your feelings. You're still, when you're onto something and you get that second wind, you're like, oh, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep looking. I'm gonna keep studying.
Eventually it did end though, because he does cut off like in mid-sentence.
Right.
So
I,
basically he says like, like Jupiter or Zeus, same shit.
I had it
Zeus
here.
came down and
Yeah,
literally, yeah, read it, read
literally.
it, read it.
Okay, yeah, yeah. When the Atlanteans got too greedy, Zeus decided they had to be punished, and he called the gods together to discuss what should be done. Quote, and when he had assembled them, he spoke thus. End
It's
quote.
like, what is it, a Mad Lib?
Zarathustra, thus spoke Zarathustra, man. Uh,
Yeah.
fuck. Yeah. So it,
But talk about fucking eternal recurrence, by the way.
you don't say.
Nietzsche must have loved this. He didn't mention Atlantis, I don't think, in the book we read by him, but Nietzsche must have been fucking all over Atlantis.
Let me give that a quick cursory ch
Goog,
chat
Jugal. Give it a
GPT
quick
first.
Jugal.
My first time on chat GPT. I don't know if it works. All right. Uh
It's not a
Now,
plug, by the way. You could just say I'm asking AI.
yeah, that's very true. Nietzsche and Atlantis. While Nietzsche never explicitly wrote about Atlantis, his philosophy, particularly his
There it
concept
is.
of the Übermensch, the will to power, is interpreted in ways to connect to the myth of Atlantis. Some scholars have drawn parallels between the idea of a lost advanced civilization like Atlantis and Nietzsche's vision of a superior self-mastering individual or society. Cue the Thule Society.
Yeah, I don't yeah, well there you go. But I don't think he would. I think he'd probably be like, no, that guy hasn't come yet. Not, it wasn't like
Right.
we're not looking back at that guy in
Mm,
Atlantis. That guy
yeah.
is coming later.
And he had a sense of revoking mimetic desire. His whole thing is making his own way, you know.
Yeah, and like demystifying stuff.
So yeah, there's an
But yeah,
admiral.
so that said, so enough about Nietzsche, especially if
Yeah,
he didn't actually explicitly talk about it.
just about to say
Um,
this admirable thing about Nietzsche, but
yeah, well, what is it? What is it? What is it?
what?
Now you've got to can't build
There
it
is an
up.
admirable thing about Nietzsche. He understood how thoughtlessly people go through life and wanted. He saw a higher meaning. Um, to what end? Probably, disastrous ends. But um, that in itself, it's like what God put in him was that ember of
Yeah, contrarianism.
yeah, and just so believe me, I'm thankful for every word I read of Nietzsche. When
Yeah,
I was, I won't, going through the years that brought me here. So, but he ain't the guy to point to.
no,
And
not sometimes he is, but
yeah,
uh,
but back to Atlantis, and
yes, of course.
everyone's making a big to do about it. Thousands
That's what I was
of
gonna say next. I was like, so okay, speaking of Nietzsche, though, eternal recurrence is like sort of what um the like antiquarian obsession with Atlantis sort of stems from is this idea that every person throughout history looks at the myth of Atlantis. So Plato came up with this a brilliant archetypical story or whatever. And the fact that he even says it's 9,000 years ago or some shit. Um and which is just like a trillion, million, jillion, billion years ago.
Yeah.
Like it may as well have been, because you know how long they considered years back then. I'm looking at you, the Old Testament. But what's it called?
I was thinking about that and wanted to ask you about that. If you had any wrangle on Noah living 7 million years and putting in a few more,
I think
just
I've said this before in the Bible episodes. I think those are just like those numbers have like numerological significance, and they're
most
just
likely.
going like bzz, you're supposed to get like the reference if you're a contemporary reader or whatever.
Right, right.
But anyway, we're off track. Okay, my point is though is that so okay, the reason why the antiquarians like or in antiquity or later antiquity, people were obsessed with um uh talking about Atlantis so much is because Plato brilliantly wrote this sort of this like parable that that any person in human history can look back and go, damn, I can think of five stories that are just like, the collapse of Rome, for instance. That's like a big Atlantis moment. Um, all America is constantly it's so overing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And
It's
at
just
the
stood
time,
tale as old as time, dude. Is fucking
it's
the city that crumbled apart into the sea.
the tale of Atlantis is older than itself,
Yeah,
ironically. Yeah. And it's funny because contemporary readers or, hearers of it, most likely, would see that as that could be us. Shit, we better kick it into high gear. It would have definitely suited a much greater purpose at the time as
yeah,
uh, but funny enough, it wasn't finished. And I can't even say, I don't know if anyone can say if it was released in the time that it was
yeah.
written. But
Yeah,
smarter people
who
than
the
me.
fuck knows that kind of stuff? For all we know, Plato was like a not influential. No, we know he was. Here we take that's like a stupid thing to say.
He
For
did
all
though.
we know, nobody knew Plato was until they dug it up like in a cartoon. There's a big box with book, and it just says Plato's writing in it.
No, like, all right, throw out half of this because frankly, it smells bad. You read the rest. Give me the Cliff Notes.
Give me the greatest hits.
Um, uh, now it serves a whole different purpose. I think that purpose, like many things coming to pass now, were they're they're either the reverberations of plans completed or in history, or we're dealing with the actual conclusions of some things that were set up
Right.
hundreds of years ago. Um, and Atlantis, like you said, suing purposes of just about anyone who hears the story, um, whether you're a pleb at the academy or what have you, um, hearing it for the first time then and there, or if you're a geologist in 2025, or if you're a Rosicrucian illuminist uh
Yeah.
like weirdo in 1620.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well,
What
also, Saint Thomas More too. Also was in the late 14, I think, hundreds and early 1500s, and he also wrote Utopia, which everyone knows the story. Like it's a classic piece of literature. Like, it is like it's a major influence on like the I don't want to say pietist, but like the Christian reform movement
mm,
like I think had a huge impact, like the Swiss guys. Um and
well it's always It's always a
You know, like John, like Calvin and shit.
oh,
You know, like it had a
sure.
big impact on, I think, on that whole movement or whatever. But like, it was the idea was he like sort of drew on the like Atlantis archetype to be like, what if they did
Mhm.
it right this time?
I'm
And it had this
just
like
gonna say
again, it's
it's
literally utopian. Like literally is like the title of it is Utopia.
yeah,
And you know, it like embodied all of the like Puritan, I guess, proto-Puritan. um
it's the worst thing that you could possibly do, frankly. Giving
I
people
haven't read it. I gotta be honest, I haven't read it, so I don't know if it sucks or not.
I've read bits of it. I I mean, for what you just said, uh, may, we'll do it right this time. That's the
Yeah,
cardinal sin right there. Is
yeah.
the worst thing you could do is give people a picture, name it
Did
the
you watch any of
the highest
I
ideal, and and then
did
intertwine
you
the church and the state, and then
of
no, it's
course, of
great.
course.
Terrible idea.
Did you happen to watch Curb, not Curb, fucking Arrested Development? Who am I kidding? Of course
Yes,
not. Oh, you did? Okay.
I did. Yeah, that's a
Remember,
great damn show.
remember Tobias is like, you know, as a therapist, I always advise couples not to open up their marriage because it never works. But maybe this time it will.
One of my favorite lines, it's probably because it's in the first episode, and I watched it recently, is the mother, Lucille, right? They're both named Lucille, and that's funny because the weird son is dating a 60-year-old woman named
Yeah,
Lucille.
that was in the third season. Yeah.
Um, but what's it called? What'd she say? She goes, "These gays are so dramatic, I could just set myself on fire," which is very funny.
Well, it's funny because
She's
that was
being
the mother. Yeah,
dramatic.
never mind. Yeah. I
Yeah.
know, it's very funny.
Uh, and Tobias is out on the raft, like an
All right, this
Atlantean,
isn't the
just dancing.
fucking the
Listen, we're
Arrested
not.
Development
w-
podcast. I'm sorry I fucking brought it up
Why'd you bring it? You brought up a
because
show I've seen
it was a
before,
relevant quote. It was a
and I was
relevant quote.
excited to talk about.
Something that you'd
Yeah,
seen.
yeah. I seen something, Mister. I seen it. Um,
Um,
but yeah, it. What
well, okay,
else?
yeah. So Thomas More,
Thomas
Utopia. But
More.
my point is that so there's a long tradition throughout that, like throughout the here we go, Utopia. Let's open this up on Wikipedia here. Um, yeah, it's supposed to be in America. Uh, let's see here.
There's a great subplot in that show where Carl Weathers is like broke, not even broke. He just always if someone's offering food, they always take
Yes,
him up on
we
it.
got a stew going, baby. I know. I remember that. Yes.
You got a
Um,
stick.
you know what? I don't have time to just to get into this here, especially if you're gonna be just pulling fucking random Arrested Development tidbits up.
Uh,
Um,
um,
I didn't
Atlant
read it, so you know what? I can't speak on Utopia
Sure. And
properly.
I will gladly be reprimanded by higher minds than my own if I'm talking out of school, but I think the worst thing you can ever do is give people a literal picture of an ideal aside from the one that
Right.
the real best one, and say, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it just like this. We just have to get the guys in parliament to you know, get on board. Um, and
Oh yeah, I
even
remember something that's from
theoretically,
Utopia was that like the government controlled everything, including like
exactly.
the industry and stuff.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, miss
It's all
me with
coming
this
back to
shit,
me now.
man. Yeah, no, the kingdom
But
of
what was the
heaven
deal?
is
So
at
you were reading,
hand.
you were showing me, you took some pictures of a book you were reading
Oh shit.
about Sir Francis Bacon's take on Atlantis, which was like again a utopian story as it relates to America specifically, because he definitely was part of the whole sort of like dark enlightenment of the time, which was like we need to enlighten the dark continent of America and make it safe for Protestantism. essentially.
Yeah, and we'll
But yeah, as he was a Rosicrucian, which isn't technically Protestant, but it's like a real radical, like esoteric wing of the Catholic Church that's sort of centered, as if I'm not mistaken, has something to do with the Knights Templar, right?
um I think like way down the line. Yes, but ooh, what I am damn sure of is that they are like very Gnostic in their insistence on transcending mortality,
Right. It's
and that
and alchemy.
yeah, yeah, the idea of alchemy is not literally it's funny. I like this is the way I always square it in my head. It's not literally snapping your fingers and you're turning a block of lead into gold. It's
Yeah.
selling that lead to someone at gold prices.
There's something of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but I don't know. And I think that I ended up like just wandering into a lot of like Nephilim shit. Do you want to talk Sefer? Do you want if for the folks at
Yeah.
home
Or
who may not
Thoth. How
know?
about Thoth? How did you look into that?
Oh no, I meant Robert. Oh no. Oh no, the Egyptians are messing with the program.
At all?
We're back.
Yeah. Don't acknowledge it so much. It sometimes just goes away.
I'm sorry.
Um,
Well, there might be a gap in audio, and I figure it might give
it's
the
fine. We'll
folks
figure it out in post. It's fine.
a try.
But what's it called? So yeah, so I was gonna, so I the Thoth, yeah, there's the Thoth thing. Yeah, we can talk about Robert Sefer, but I just want to talk about, I just first I wanted to get to the historical sort of obsession and depictions of it. What do you think about that?
I didn't hear a word of it.
Great, sick.
I'm
This is making for a great episode.
I'm sorry.
Um, no, what's it called? I was just thinking we could discuss some of the historical depictions of it first before we talk about the goofy shit.
Please.
We can't
Yes.
mix the goofy shit in
No.
well, I guess I mean here's the problem with Sir Francis Bacon is he's borderline goofy. He's goofy prime, if you will.
Yes, yes. Choice cut, goofball. Uh,
He's the
and
alpha and omega of goofy, probably. But
um,
yeah, no. But to speak on alchemy a little bit. Um, yeah, you're right that it is hucksterism essentially, but also it's hucksterism that's based in sort of dubious esotericism that sort of has a sort of psychological effect on people that sort of sells first of all worldview and also it's
mhm.
there it's sort of like a psychological way of living your life, I guess. And
And
it's a lot of it's a
mhm.
based around a lot of bullshit.
There you go. Yeah, more often than not, it's
Well,
also
to
using
speak
a
on Robert Sefer, you brought up Robert Sefer, so now we're gonna
yeah.
have to acknowledge that he exists, unfortunately.
Let's. Oh,
But
sorry.
the problem is with this Robert Tepper is like uninitiated, pun intended, uninitiated people, when they go into watching stuff like that, they're like, wow, this guy must be telling the truth because look at all this information that he's spitting at me and goes into all these different things tangentially connected to each other.
Oh,
And that,
sure.
don't really actually create a systemic proof of anything or like
Hmm.
there's just like little patterns between like for instance Landon and in the group chat asked me but right before we started recording, are you guys going to talk about Lemuria? And
Oh,
I'm like
brother.
I was like to be honest, no, not really. I'll say this is that Lemuria is the Asian version of Atlantis basically. That's pretty much all I'm going to say on it.
Can we talk
um
about Mu, the legends and lost island of
yeah,
Mu?
maybe another day, maybe another
Yeah,
day.
come on, dude.
But my
I'm
point
silly
is
with
that
this shit over here.
but my point is that That's like the kind of Robert Seffer shit where he's like, it's actually pretty similar to the story of Lemuria,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is the version of which is the same story as bubble as Atlantis, but it's for the Asian or whatever. And it
He's
seems
the
impressive. It seems impressive when you could go, oh, when you put them right next to each other, but they're just like tangentially sort of related to each other.
mhm.
So like it's not a systemic like proof. It doesn't hold a ton of water.
Yeah, no, it really, he does just throw a bunch of shit at you. He's the equivalent of this kind of shit from the 60s and 70s, whatever. Gods and spacemen in the ancient East, was atomic warfare waged in India millennia ago by astronaut warriors from distant suns. It's this kind of shit.
Yes.
It's a hodgepodge of like whack anthropology, um,
Yeah.
what do you
Pop
call it?
anthropology. Yeah.
Pop anthro, freaking like pick and
Like
choose
that Yuval Noah
geology.
Harari guy. Like that's the
Oh,
equivalent today of that
there you
of
go.
the Robert Zephyr stuff. Curious ethnic connection between those two fellas.
Yeah, there might be some over, how many degrees of separation
Yeah.
you want to, and the the what do you call it? His whole he does a lot of bloodline shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hang on. We'll get to him in a minute. I just want to talk a little bit more about Francis Bacon real quick.
Hmm.
So for Francis Bacon, so you sent me those screenshots of him. He was talking what's in the New Atlantis. He's talking about how awesome it would be if Jews were integrated into society.
And this is I was reading another book. Ooh, this is a good one for the folks at home. The Occult Philosophy in the Elizabethan Age by Francis Yates.
Okay.
Francis with an E. And it's Cromwell kind of put the jump start on bringing Jews into England, is from
Yep.
what I gathered there. Um, they
Back
weren't,
into.
yeah. Now, uh, Bacon, his idea is that his New Atlantis in the book that was published after his death, he calls it a Christian community explicitly, but it doesn't. It's so it's really much more insistent on the invisible college shit that comes up in Rosicrucianism. The idea that
Yeah.
there will be, he spends quite a bit of time talking about how there ought to be supra governmental groups, that are beyond the reach of the state, that, work for the betterment of the
Right. So deep
people.
state.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so it's pretty similar to like what's that guy
Let me get two of
Cotton
those.
Mather. Cotton Mather he's like, yeah, we're just like the New England branch of like the global conspiracy of Protestant scientists. You know what I mean? That's like what they
Yeah.
thought of themselves as. And
How
yeah,
else
it
do you
seems
get
like
through
it's
winter?
yeah, it seems like it's similar thing kind of going on where like well, here's the thing. I don't want to talk too much on Cotton Mather necessarily, but from what I understand about Francis Bacon and like also like the other people like similar people like Newton had some interesting ideas. Actually, next week I think I'm doing an episode with William and
Mhm.
Monica where I'm talking about a bunch of like classical figures and in changing the way people think
Mhm.
from medieval times to now. But the thing with that is they had this like here's the thing, they were like such a product of the time where they had to say it was Christian, but they absolutely weren't Christians at all. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? I'm not even like
Right.
being like I'm not doing by the way, I'm not Nietzsche right now. I'm not Smuggies. I'm not doing Smuggies right now. I'm genuinely saying like what their thoughts were like verbatim. I think what's his name? Not Thomas Paine. Yeah, Thomas Paine's Common Sense, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. Thomas Paine was saying like like it's all about good deeds and saying that Jesus is the Messiah. And by good deeds he means making a lot of money. You know
How,
what I mean? Like
how else are you gonna? how else are you gonna, do good deeds if you don't make a buck at it?
Dude,
I
yeah, for
mean,
sure. Well, it's just like
what's
there was like this sort of like this idea that like being a good person meant that you were industrious the only way to
right,
prove you were industrious is if you were well off. You know what I mean?
right,
You could just
amazing.
say, yeah, sure, he's industrious. I don't know, it doesn't seem very industrious to me. He's not
Yeah,
he's not doing so hot.
it's insane. It's the most backwards, wild, as if someone could spend a day working not toward nothing other than
You know,
the good of
I'm
others.
gonna save that take. No, fuck it. I'll say it in this
Okay,
because
good.
they'll still get we'll still get a genuine reaction out of Monica and William. But it almost makes me think that like the Nick Land hypothesis, where like capitalism is like a ghost that was sent back through time to construct the AI god. Where it's like just some guys in the 1600s are just like they're like it's good to be rich like
Yeah. It's like Roku's basilisk, but capitalism, right?
yeah, but yeah, it's capitalism sent itself back through time in order to get it build itself in the future.
Is that Roku's basilisk? I'm
No,
retarded.
that's Nick Land.
No, no, I know, but like is
Rogo's Basilisk is when you as soon as you know about what Rogo's Basilisk is, if you don't help make it, you're going to
yeah,
be
yeah.
tortured forever.
Yeah, yeah. So it's similar, some kind of I have no
Yeah.
dick and I must piss type
Yes,
of horror
exactly.
show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Miss me with that nonsense. I
I don't know. I
That's
think you're
very
doing pretty
funny
good.
though.
You just searched AI for something you could have just Googled.
Hey,
You
shit,
know,
man.
I think
Yeah,
you're in the
it's
clear with Roko's Basilisk, bro.
the basilisk because it's in my brain. Shit. Oh fuck, dude.
Yo, man. I get this Basilisk out of here in the library.
Hey yo, who's basilisk?
Basilisk is this. You know, they say scrimps. They
Oh,
just get,
that's
they'll be being tortured to death and they just say like the Basilisk.
Roku's I can't not say it correctly. Roku's scrimp.
Yeah,
That's very funny. Scrimps were sent back in time to put capitalism in the minds of Protestant reformers so that
good.
they would break their backs. They literally, these guys looked like shrimps by the end of their lives. They were all bent over, hunched over, total shrimp mode.
Well, yeah, they were like boiling their own piss.
Oh, what?
So okay, that's the thing. That's the other thing
What?
with.
As like
So speaking of fucking,
help with the
speaking
smell?
of, wait. So okay, but before we move on from Sir Francis Bacon, I'll start talking about alchemy in a minute. But Sir Francis Bacon, one of the other things in that New Atlantis thing, you said, yeah, like one of the things was like he wanted to make like an ideal society where it's capitalism and like Jews were a big part of society, and like it's just like what an odd conception of what a utopia is. You know what I mean? Like,
Seems, yeah, I mean, everyone's entitled to their own flights of fancy, their own
sure,
whimsy, their
yeah.
own daydreams.
He didn't even
Here's the
release the
thing.
book. It was released after he died.
Guy was Attorney General of frickin' England, guy. What are you talking about? Like, guy's got pull, you know? Like,
Sure.
and the and New Atlantis, New Jerusalem, the phrase New Jerusalem is used so prevalently. At the time, and after the fact, it's looked at as a, especially by what the British Israelite type thing.
Anglo-Israelism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Um, it, dude.
I'll say this.
Um,
Maybe I'm speaking a little out of school here, but William always kind of gave me the impression that like there is like a sort of we're the chosen people sort of mentality that is English. You know what I mean? And
oh yeah.
this other book I'm reading too, by the way, they were very quick to be like, oh, we've got they would always pick like their like generationally they'd pick their like new English genius to
Mm,
be like, wow, we've got everything figured out, dude.
yeah.
Like John Stuart Mill like
Yeah.
was like this guy who came up with like utilitarianism and he was basically like, everything should be happy. Everyone you should be happy maxing was like his
Now.
ideology basically. And it's actually, speaking of, I'm just keep bringing up Nietzsche, but Nietzsche said, he said only an English person would think that the reason, the purpose for life is happiness. Which just, that's a pretty fucking solid thing to say.
Oh, what is the purpose of life?
I don't know. I don't think Nietzsche would say he knew, but he would say it's not being happy.
Hmm. No, yeah, yeah. God forbid the dude ever like like leaned in his seat or anything. He probably sat up straight all the time, even when no one was looking.
No, this whole thing was the joyful, Wissenschaft.
Fair enough. Yeah, he's
Frolic
probably.
Wissenschaft.
Oh, so he was the first guy to turn the chair around and sit backwards in it.
No, yeah, yeah, the world's first AC Slater, right?
He turned put his bowler cap backwards,
You think he
whatever they
wore a
were wearing.
bowler cap?
Ah, fucking I know. Uh, keep up with the headwear of the times. I just know that those
Okay, so
people are
let's talk a
just like
little bit
us.
about Goofy Prime
As
stuff.
if as if we haven't. Like it's
Um,
all goofball shit from back to front. No one was in on the joke but Plato.
that's actually rules. It's like he kind of is like an intergenerational 1,000 year troll,
That's so
honestly,
funny.
for that. He was real for that one.
Big ups,
Plato
Plato.
was so real for that.
Yeah, the Republic sucks though. No, that ain't gonna fly. A bunch of nerds tell me what to do. Yeah, right.
I think he was more being like, "Yo, look, we rule." I think it was more like a positive statement, not instructive. It was maybe there was an aspect of instructiveness, but
Mm,
I think he was doing a nationalism when he wrote Plato's
mm.
Republic. When
The
he was like being
nationals.
like. He was like, yeah,
The
look, we
nationalist
have it all
shuffle.
figured out. Like, just you're gonna look back on this and be like, wow, why couldn't have we thought of that?
Yeah. Nothing new under the sun.
Okay. Well, yeah, speaking of Nietzsche,
Speaking of
nothing new under the
everything.
sun. But what's it called?
The goofy
Yeah,
shit.
so the goofy shit. Yeah, so Robert Sever, I don't know if you guys if you listeners, if you've never heard of him before, he
Don't
was this
bother.
guy who hit the scene kind of a little bit before COVID, probably like 2018, 2019, and he
500,000 subscribers.
blew up during
Mhm.
COVID. And he his whole thing is like my name's Robert Seffer. I'm an anthropologist and an author, and my you can get my books on Amazon. They're great gifts.
You're another A word, my friend.
um he um he what's it called? So anyway, he does these videos where he's big into like theosophy,
Mm.
and he is big into like, but here's the thing, he's like an enjoyer of like esoteric Hitlerism, like,
Literally was gonna say didn't want to cut you off.
yeah,
So
esoteric
fucking funny.
Hitlerism, but like through the lens. So okay, we got to talk a little bit
Ding.
about esoteric Hitlerism, I guess. So he didn't come up with it. It's a Himmler baby. It's
Mm.
Himmler's baby, basically.
Ooh. Would you be interested in a book called it's called HHHH, which is the German abbreviation. Uh what the hell is it called? Himmler is Himmler's brain is called what the fuck is this book called in English? Um no, it's backwards. That's why. These Germans, they're feisty ones.
You sure it isn't in Hebrew? It's backwards.
The fuck is this? Like Himmler's brain is what the hell is this thing
Hitler's
called?
hands. Himmler's brain, Hitler's hands.
Hold on.
Okay, man, it's
Himmler,
taking too
I'm
long.
so sorry.
What is the book about? Tell me that. The name doesn't matter. It'll come back to you.
It's a basically about Himmler's over it's like a metafictional novel about um Himmler and being a much bigger part of the Nazi philosophy than is, uh
Seems to be the case.
yeah, and
Which he wasn't a small part. I'm not going to sit here and be like he had nothing to do with it.
mm,
But it seems like for better or for worse, it was kind of all on the one guy.
Himmler's brain is Heinrich is what it's like. actually. But it's like a experimental novel. I've only read excerpts of it and it seemed interesting. But yeah, for the folks at home.
Okay.
Quadruple H. All right. But yeah,
Um,
Himmler. What a
Himmler, yeah.
guy.
So he had created something called the Tile Society. So Tile
Mm.
is
Oh.
it's a place depicted by Plato initially, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken.
Mm.
Farthest Tile, which is spelled Thule. And you'll notice now that there's an outdoor brand that's called that, which is hilarious. Every time I see it, I'm like, am I really seeing this right now? Like
You have to nudge your wife.
I did. I
Is
literally did that. We were behind
yeah, dude.
someone. We were behind someone in driving, and they had like a bike rack on their roof that said Thule, or tile. And I was like, you know what that is? Like,
It reminds me of the Nathan for you bit where
yeah,
they
deny
yeah.
nothing. Yeah. What is that? Summit Ice. So yeah, there's an episode of Nathan for You where he makes yeah so Thule the tile. It's in direct response to that brand of outdoor, right? The
I don't think it was specifically them, was it?
It might be. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. It's fine.
All right,
We
never
can just be
mind.
wrong about something too. Don't worry.
I accept that.
I seem to remember it. I could be wrong. No Googling necessary. I seem to remember that it was in response to a brand of gear that was
Winter wear.
popular
Yeah.
where the owner of it had said something anti-Semitic or had said something about like,
Oh, he
how do we even
donated
know it was
money.
6 million? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But so he
Um,
created a joke on the show where he made it a real brand of jackets that were like donated all of its profits to Holocaust education. Um, and like the tagline for it was "Deny Nothing." It's very funny, honestly. Great series of episodes, and it's almost like it's almost like he was doing a wink nod to the camera with that.
I was stunned when I saw it, and
Yeah,
frankly, it like uh made me wonder
how hip he
it's
is. Yeah.
yeah, it was weird. Deny nothing. It's funny because I
He did another thing in the audition too, where he like had this. No, we're not talking about fucking Nathan
the
now.
most absurd shit ever.
Yeah,
If folks, if
that
you're
was a funny
interested,
Jewish scene too. Yes. Okay. Well, but moving back to Tile there. So, Himmler had come up with this Tile Society, which was like a esoteric club, I guess, sort of like Freemasons inspired, but for Nazis. Um,
because they did
and
not like Freemasons.
Yeah, but not dissimilar because it has like similar like
Yeah.
theology, I guess. I don't know. But
Mm,
basically the
mm,
idea was they had this sort of Blavatsky, which is ironic because she's Jewish, Blavatsky-ish sort of fixation on Old Testament um Old Testament like mysticism and
mhm.
but also as it relates to Atlantis and
I think sorry to interject. I think it's because Blavatsky's the spin on Atlantis is what introduced these sub races. And
right, okay.
And the Aryans were the direct descendants of the Atlantean
Okay.
diaspora and such.
Right. Right.
So big ups to her for that. They said, let's roll with it. Well,
Yeah,
actually, there were some German guys before that who, expounded on the story,
of
and
course, yeah.
then Thule. I never heard it said the proper way. I guess
The ancient Greek
teal
way is tile.
tile. All right, fair enough. That's about 50 miles south of Hyperborea. Take a left. You can't miss it.
Literally. He talked about
Yeah,
Hyperborea too, actually.
yeah,
Um, so Plato, I mean.
yeah.
And but yeah, so basically they're like, yeah, that's where Aryans are from, Atlantis, and yeah, the city sank, and Plato talked about it, and they moved through Egypt, and they were King Cyrus the Great, who called himself
Hmm.
Aryan, as we
Hmm.
recall, and they conquered India, and because
Hmm.
I mean, like Hitler and his boys, they go down to India and they're talking about Aryans. They're like, that must be us.
Right. Dude, I mean
They
it's
just like
whack.
bought in. They just bought into like the mythological view on the Plato story, which in
Yeah.
my opinion is fucking metaphorical.
It's so funny because who totally the same story hits two groups with totally different intentions. One wants to create a utopia of commingling Christians and Jews who,
Yeah,
who aspire to be gods through science and such.
yeah.
And the other uh uh doesn't like the
It's like a
Jewish part.
like revert to pagan. Yeah, they certainly don't like Jews, but it's like a revert to paganism
Yeah,
almost.
the old gods.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're like doing a and I don't really think that's Nietzschean, but they were doing a like there's we're based and pagan pilled and yeah, I don't know, it's listen, it's not my cup of tea per se, but listen, if you're into that sort of thing, I hope you enjoy your fucking Robert Sepper videos.
Yeah, well,
um
yeah. Good luck. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything good about taking Atlantis seriously because we haven't even gotten to the, like the boots on the ground, or in this
yeah,
case,
well that's the last thing I want to talk about. So let
asses
me
in the
just
water.
finish up with the esoteric stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, so Helena Blavatsky, I mentioned her before. So she was like boys with Crowley,
Mm.
as it were. Um and they started something called the Golden Dawn. This is or that was Crowley's thing, right?
Crowley came into the Golden
Order of the
Dawn.
Golden Dawn. Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
Blavatsky, right?
Well, she started Theosophy with some other guy,
Right, Theosophy, right. But then, so Golden
but he
Dawn
was the
was based on theosophical concepts.
she actually got booted from her own outfit. They were like, "This bitch is crazy.
She's too Jewish.
She's not taking us anywhere good." And she literally, she stepped back. She's like, "Yeah, that sounds good. I'm gonna go travel." And she did. And she set up her own theosophical school. The first one was in India. Go figure. So and then she goes off to who fucking knows where. She was Ukrainian, I believe. That's where it all started. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, but you were going into Crowley though, so
Yeah,
feel
Crowley.
free.
So okay, maybe I get my wires crossed a little bit here. My B.
I mean,
Um, but Crowley was involved in the Golden Dawn. Now, Golden
mhm.
Dawn, um, I've heard that it is refers to. Oh, first of all, as you know, it's a sex magic group, obviously.
With a K,
Yeah, with
just
a
so you
K,
don't get it
yeah. Well, I think
twisted.
all the men would say. I mean, all their
Well,
magic ends with a K.
you show up to a sex magic show, or you think it's
And you
gonna
start
be
like
like,
pulling doves out of your pocket and shit.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, you thought it's that, but then you walk into Eyes Wide Shut.
yeah,
You
for
thought
sure.
you thought it was gonna be like a weird thing, but it's a really weird thing.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. So Golden Dawn, as I'm told, and I may have been duped on this, it refers to the fact that urine is a prime ingredient in alchemical solutions because it is based on alchemical principles, this sex magic.
Right.
And being so golden, obviously that isn't no, doesn't need any explanation. But dawn is because it's the best time to harvest your piss. It's right when you wake up in the morning.
The reason
But
why
it's a
urine
fact. Sorry to
it
laugh over this, but it is a fact that many medieval and Renaissance era alchemists would spend years and years boiling their piss, and like it's a fact that they would boil their piss for years to get it to be black, so then it would turn black and then red
uh,
and then green.
uh, look, I'm
And
doing
they're like, "Look, it
science.
worked."
These
And
are
they'd
Reddit
make like
guys.
they'd make crystals out of their piss, basically.
These
They're trying to
fucking
make the
assholes.
philosopher's stone.
Fuck these dudes. Literally, I'm looking at it right now. By way of the alchemy force, the reason why urine works to produce the philosopher's stone is because of the minute cellular matter that tends to end up in urine after it has been passed. Interesting. Very interesting. Oh, I knocked over
So
my
I'm
jug.
serious, obviously.
That's
Yeah.
fucking nuts, dude. That's batshit. I'm thinking of like hoarders, you know, when you say
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah, that's what they're
Yeah,
actually. No,
these are,
but you call them hoarders. I call them alchemists.
I call these men magicians. You think this person has a severe case of
Mental
OCD?
disorder.
Think not. No, sir. One of the
No, they're
brightest
trying
minds
to
of our
they're trying to
times.
break man from its mortal coil
This man
forever.
speaks to angels, and you're worried about a little piss on your shoes, in your food? What? What else are you going to complain about? Oh my God. That's so stupid. That's so fucking stupid.
So yeah, so okay, Thoth was supposed to. So
Oh
there's
Lord.
all. Here's the thing with this Robert Zephyr's stuff, which I don't know how much like the Theosophists were into this same stuff, but he says that Thoth, the ancient Egyptian god, which is it has some association with. Okay, so okay. Thoth is supposed to be one of the kings that descended from Atlantis that left, that survived or whatever, right? Okay, he went to Egypt, became an Egyptian god, and eventually became the god that Amun, the king Amun, remember the one who became a monotheistic?
Right.
So there's like one king in Egypt, the
Hmm.
Egyptian pharaoh, who decided to become monotheistic, and they say that that is the historical period in which Joseph was in Egypt from Genesis. So
Mm.
that's where I'm going for this. So
Mm.
then the story goes, or rather, it's the Exodus. Rather, I'm sorry, it's when Moses left. So the Jews were these. So he calls them this group called. Oh, I forget what the name starts with a K. It's not what you're thinking either, by the way. But he's saying like it's like the Cormiers or something, but it means it's some word that's pretty similar to Israel or
Mm.
like uh ear me
Claw people.
or meal or something, whatever, it doesn't
All
matter.
right.
But then he's saying that was the biblical exodus in which they went into Canaan,
Mm.
in which they carried these fucking ancient goofy ass Egyptian secrets all along. But this is the problem. He just jumps from one thing to another, and now I'm trying to piece it together, and I'm like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Then he jumps immediately to Mount Ararat is where Noah lands.
Yeah.
That's a fact in
Mm. Turkey.
Genesis, in Turkey, right? And he goes, "Oh, this is the thing." He keeps going, "Oh, there's these genetic DNA markers that proves that these are the Aryans that came from Atlantis."
Dude.
It is like they're dark skinned, but they have blue eyes and blonde hair. And it's
Okay.
like, all right, man, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know that I believe all this DNA sequencing stuff either. That's the thing.
Hmm.
It requires you to believe in the DNA sequencing and all this stuff,
Mm.
and how that's like a sure bullet point
Yeah.
proof.
Yeah.
That it's, oh, these are the guys, man. These are the Atlanteans.
Yeah. I'm not. It's like listening to,
And just jumping
certain.
around.
It's like you have these people in your life, I'm sure, wherever you go, where like they're telling you shit, but you just ask one question. You're like, who's they? And they're like, it's the equivalent of that because Robert Seffer's
I'm
not
gonna I'm
citing
gonna give Robert
sources.
Zephyr a little more credit because he has his bullshit rehearsed, so
Sure,
he wouldn't look at you like when you
but
pull out who's they.
yeah, fair enough, maybe, but I wonder, I like, all right, show me I don't know. Wait, I gotta learn how to. This is the problem, and this is what the Invisible College and all those dickheads of yesteryear wanted was for us to live in an indecipherable world where
Yeah,
we are,
we live in one now.
yeah,
Yeah,
we are at the behest of
it's
those who
proto
will,
Psywar paper. The
dude.
New Atlantis by for Sir Francis Bacon is the proto Michael Aquino Psywar paper.
Yeah, talk about, yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, they were
Um,
both prone to wear goofy shit, I'm sure.
yeah, they styled their eyebrows to look more menacing.
Oh, God. That's
Okay, but one other
talk
thing I want
about
to
piss
say, the
boilers.
Robert Sefer, of course, by the way, it was revealed that Robert Sefer is like Israeli Jewish. And the Jerusalem Post even wrote a thing being like far right anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist creator exposed as Jewish faces far
Right.
right backlash or something like that.
They don't know what they're gonna do. It's like, well, yeah,
So
it's you.
yeah, so
It's
it was revealed by the Jerusalem, the Israeli version of Antifa, I guess. They exposed that
yeah,
Robert Sefer is his dad. His name is Ben Hur. So this is it couldn't be more Jewish, by the way. Is Ben Hur Sefer, and it was truly exposed when there was video. I think that he had like something. He had like Ben Hur Sefer had like an Israeli state funeral or something, and there's Robert Sefer on camera like at the funeral or what. Obviously you're not going to not show up to your dad's funeral just because you have a right-wing YouTube channel.
yeah,
But it
yeah.
explains a lot when you find out that his dad is Ben Hur and is having an
Mm,
Israeli state funeral. When you say, oh, he's talking about like how the Nazis are cool
mm,
on
mm,
YouTube, and it's there, it's just on there, and it's not demonetized. I mean,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and
Um,
he's talking about, by the way, he's also associating that sort of political ideology with people who believe in fucking Atlantis
yeah,
and and
I,
Nephilim blood and Hiram
yeah,
of Tyr and shit like that.
dude, yeah. In the same, I don't know, what's it called? The guy who, it's so funny. The guy who rebuilt London after the 1666
The
fire.
great, yeah, yeah. I love the 1666, man. Why do you think it was
So,
called 1666,
oh,
man?
come on, man. They
I
couldn't
love those
wait.
guys too. Also, are like if like there's like 33 people dead in any like mass shooting or not just mass shooting. Say it was like a fucking earthquake or something totally
Hmm.
normal that
Yeah.
happens, and it's like 33. You think I'm gonna believe that shit?
I mean, yeah, sure. All right, don't listen. There often is a weird thing where the initial reports will have some sort of some
And then they'll, yeah,
it'll be
yes,
flip-flopped where either the numbers end up changing, they end up going lower or higher based
yeah.
on
Sometimes they're wrong
reporting.
about the number when the first report comes
Yeah.
out.
But so whichever one it starts as or settles on, can play whatever part it plays and whatever big
You
crisscross
love woo
applesauce.
woo shit, dude.
No, I mean people will. I'm not above the idea that a lot
They're
of
sending
the
little messages through the news.
yeah they'll wait for they can bide their time, wait for a holiday in their own
I
minds.
guess
You know
Nancy Reagan thought so, huh?
how you say how do you mean? I'm talking
You
about
don't know
Nancy
about that? Oh,
Reagan.
Nancy Reagan had her own like numerologist on staff at the White House. Did you not know
Shit.
that?
I heard that years ago.
Well, it's a
Uh,
fact. And also,
damn.
I think I'm not sure, but the Israelis one time bragged that they had created a horoscope numerology machine that would just say whatever they wanted it to. And they didn't say this in reference to Nancy Reagan, but one it leads one to wonder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey, look, this machine we made, it says whatever we want. What?
Nancy, I know you love this stuff.
Just put it somewhere nice in your house.
Yeah, you don't have to use it. Just just look at it, enjoy it.
Just plug it in. Make sure it's plugged in nice.
Yeah.
Um, what's it called? And don't sit too close to it. It'll make your head hurt. The signal is very strong.
The theosophical signal.
The the 5G rays. Um, so uh yeah. What's the problem here is a lot of people in power are into a lot of goofball shit
Sure.
and they act accordingly. And what's easy is, to look at I don't know, like anyone that is outwardly a Zionist who, make minces no words about it. Um, that's easy enough, but you look at these names that were just passed idly by in like my high school history or social studies class or whatever, Francis Bacon science. And
Sure, yeah, yeah.
these guys, to whatever extent they, going back to Christopher Wren, supposed Freemason who helped this, design the city of London after the fire in 66. 1666 will commence again. The guy before him, they had to ditch because he was too wacky, and he was like, "Well, I want to make it like a Kabbalah." I didn't send you the I didn't send you the fucking
Oh, serious? Oh,
pictures.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You did send me a brief little thing. I didn't see what the context was. So, okay, so you're saying that after the
Oh,
fire in 6066, they were
I
like,
just sent it.
okay, well, okay, I'll pull it up. Fine.
It's on Telegram.
Okay,
Uh,
I'll pull it up then.
that was the first draft that had to be
Okay, wow,
ditched.
he really wanted it. So, were you serious? They were trying to do this? Okay, I'll actually fucking pull this up.
Man, so these guys are where it begins and ends, whether they're molding these philosophies to suit their purposes or if they are truly compelled. And I can read
So
off
this
from
is
the
what this
book.
guy wanted. John Evelyn wanted to make
Yeah,
the Sephiroth. Yeah. So yeah,
yeah,
he wanted. That's an insane thing you'd want
from
to do.
east to west like that. Yeah, and all of those points were major uh
And what was his? Who was
sites in the
he? Who was
city.
John Evelyn?
John Evelyn was an
He was
architect,
boys. He was boys with Bacon. I'm guessing.
Rosicrucian, and but he got the boot, and they decided to go with Christopher Wren for the actual rebuild, and he he took note of Evelyn's stuff, and it's not so. Um, I believe London Bridge is supposed to be the bottom, and we could really get into it. That's a whole episode in itself.
Did it have feng shui?
Oh, dude, the vibes were off the hook. You couldn't even you could step over shit like it was nothing. There was
We have
plenty of room to
ultimate
step.
Jew. We have unlimited Jews. This party is going to be off the hook. There's
Guys, come
another
on, let's
Arrested
clean it up.
Development. That's another Arrested Development reference for you.
Is it?
Yeah.
We have unlimited Jews. This party's gonna be off the hook.
Yeah, and he later has a hook for a hand. It's like a double joke.
Can you explain to me why they have the most hopping parties, those fellas with the big beards and the funny hats? Like it's an
Oh, I
undeniably
actually do have an
good
answer for
fun
you because
time.
the
I want to get in the
headbanging,
chair.
the headbanging is they're metaphorically having sex with Shekinah, which is the same entity, same theological entity as Sophia, like the
Mm,
Gnostic wisdom goddess.
hmm I always wondered why it was a males only affair. Yeah,
Yes, that's right. So
there it is.
headbanging is them pretending they're miming fucking the divine feminine,
Yeah,
cucking God, if you will.
we're getting dazzled by the impressive
By
footwork.
the way, there'll be
Yeah,
future episodes on this because I'm really only dipping my toes into this Jewish mysticism stuff because it's very, first of all, complicated and and it's fucking weird, man. And
brother,
it's also
you
like
ain't
the
kidding.
other thing is like this. They're from not just from like the stuff Patrick just showed me there from like some guy in 1666, some kook who has a lot of power in government in England or whatever. But like throughout history, or not throughout history, but throughout not just pop culture, but like classical literature, there's all these weird esoteric references to this stuff that like, you gotta be learned. And I mean that in all of its
In the positive,
implications and its
uh,
implications.
yeah,
You need to be learned to get all this stuff. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's weird. And then, but even still, like you like not just but pop culture too, because like it's like this is finds its way into like so many anime
mm.
and Japanese video games and stuff, and it's just really fucking weird how it just it seems ubiquitous. It's really
Not to
weird that it's
say, not to say, I mean, the ship, what was it? I think there was a ship called the Atlantis that I think they discovered something yeah, never mind that. But we can get into, where it is and, so on and so forth in a
That's
little bit, but
next.
like,
That's next.
yeah, but the, I mean, just imagine all of the expeditions, all of the cats making biscuits on my back, all of the expeditions and, that were, you know, put underway and, all of this,
Millions of
militarily,
shekels that
dude,
were wasted looking for this shit.
yeah,
I
formally and
remember
informally,
here's
yeah.
a little piece of a personal anecdote. I, as a kid, was fascinated by, like most kids, was fascinated by the story of Atlantis and the
Mhm.
idea that maybe it's just out there and we'll find it someday. That was, and by the way, before there was Ancient Aliens, there was first of all, the Loch Ness Monster was big when I was a kid, but
Hell yeah.
also Atlantis was big.
Mothman.
That every fucking year there'd be some bullshit claim by the Greek government being like, "Yes, we found it." They're dancing, they're eating barbecue fish.
They're getting sauce on their shirts. Um, uh,
Yeah, I
yeah,
can't tell you how many of these fucking goofy Discovery Channel specials I watched, and they'd be like, at the end of this episode, we're gonna show you what might be Atlantis, and then it's literally like some underwater footage of a pot. They're
might
like,
as well
this
be,
could be we're feeling very confident that this one is going to be the real thing, and we spent many millions of dollars.
he's talking with
Um,
his mouth full.
that's how they sound, whether or not his mouth is actually full or not.
Um, yeah, they might as
By
well
the
show
way,
you
I
a
have to
ham
say this.
sandwich.
Somebody was
Like,
bitching, not somebody who's listening right now because they're fucking got spooped
what
away
up,
from the
pimp?
show.
What up,
But
player?
I got 2 or 3 comments from salty Greek women about us
What?
not being respectful enough in the Greek Revolution, or sorry, not in the Greek Revolution, in the episode about Cyprus.
Oh, that's a
Several
while
things we're
back.
saying that we're just being racist against Greek people and we're being anti-Semitic and stuff. And it's like, yes, all of that is true. Move along.
Didn't you read the sign?
Yeah, don't
But you
make me
just
tap
walk.
the sign. Don't make me tap the fucking sign, man.
This is a safe place for whatever is wrong with you. Doesn't matter
This is
who
a
you
safe
are.
place for us to say to be very silly about history.
Hang on, just give it a minute. Check out the next episode. We'll dog on the whoever Greeks don't like the Armenians or
Yeah, I don't know that
Turks.
we've done a Greek. Oh, yeah, they don't like Turks. Yeah, I think we were pretty mean to Turks and Greeks. That's the thing. I felt at the time when we made that episode that it would be fairly balanced.
Listen,
But
look,
who knew that the Greek would want to take up for the Jews? Come on, man. Who knew?
now, if, I'll tell you who knew.
One guy did know, yeah.
Yeah. Um, uh, so what do we what do we think?
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about
Does
the
where's
this. So
Rogan fit in?
yeah, I'll give Joe Rogan. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what my theory on why Joe Rogan has an opinion on Atlantis.
He's 1/16th Atlantean.
They must have been short people. Um, um,
They all
what was
walked
I
around
gonna
with a little,
say?
they had their own conch
Here's what I
shells.
think. So it fits into the whole Graham Hancock, Ancient Aliens, sort of advanced
Yeah.
society
Mhm.
that is lost, man, and it was
If
actually
only.
it's all like Eddie Bravo bullshit, like the
Listen,
Nibiruans. The
listen.
Nibiruans seeded us, and the stoned ape theory, and it was
Yes,
actually
yes.
monkeys that the Nibiruans fed the fucking psychedelics to, and made them into upright walking man, which they would mate with, which created the human race, the slave race, Adamu. Did you gotta read that fucking goofy book? No, you don't actually. Don't waste your time
Brother,
reading
the
that.
time life is precious. It's the
Yeah,
most
don't
precious
read
thing.
that actually. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
silly.
wasting God's gift on that. Literally, the book I've passed up, dude. I've been on sprees. You can admonish me for buying books. I've been on sprees where I'm like, it's $2, $3, $4. I don't give a shit. A stack of books, 2 arms of books. And then one, they're gonna shut off the internet. I'm gonna have no books. I need these books. I can burn them. I can, stay warm at the very least. But dude, the amount of times I've passed up that Graham Hancock bullshit, and they could have been free. They could have been
You had
handing
to
it
pay
off
me to read it. Yeah.
with gold foil in between the pages, and I'm like, my arms are full. Yeah, miss me, man. No, I admittedly, when I was driving trucks, I was
Of
heavy on
course,
the.
when I was new to Joe Rogan, I heard Graham Hancock for the first time, I was like, "Yo,
No. Oh,
yo!"
dude, I mean, I was more a higher side chance kind of guy, because
Okay,
yeah,
gotta
and
getting high, man.
hey, man, truly,
Graham Hancock's not here, man.
but in between Graham Hancock and the free.
Plato's not here, man.
Come back later, man. Um, the Randall Carlson, Freemason. He's the other one
Is he a
bouncing between the.
Freemason? I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not surprised by that.
it's in the higher side chat's bio description right there. And I, yeah, like I said, I listened to a lot of this woo shit back in the day just for
That was your form. And since when I was reading A Man, Economy, and State by Rothbard, you were into that.
no shit. Yeah. Well, I no, I really my segue into, economics and libertarian reading was it coincided with this, but I felt
Coincided, all right.
yeah, so but once my brain got kind of, when your brain gets broken and you'll kind of just you start grabbing at everything. Um and I what's it called? I always enjoy, like Art Bell and shit.
Of course.
Big, yeah.
Classic.
So there's something to a story told so well you can't tell if it's true or not. If there's some good ones. But I listen to all this
Atlanta, you
shit.
got into Atlantis, is to make this long story short.
Hardly. No, I didn't give a shit about Atlantis because it kind of it still feel the same way now. If we find it,
Yeah, it's gonna be a
oh,
bunch of rocks.
yeah. So what? We're just gonna throw $10 billion a year or a day or however many it is that NASA
It's a making it a, or it's
burns.
a making, yeah, whatever, but
Yeah,
it's a making it a tourist attraction. Yeah.
yeah. Or not even just they can talk about it, they can write about it, you can click on it,
Right. Yeah.
forever. The content forever. I mean, what they just talked about some bullshit and they found the pyramid. What, somebody dropped their glasses? Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
Golly, man.
Mr. Beast went inside. He's the first guy to get HD footage inside the fucking pyramid in history.
Napoleon, Crowley, and Mr. Beast going one going to the pyramid. It's like a joke. It's like a
Yeah.
setup to a
Fuck,
bet.
Mary kill. I guess fuck Mr. Beast. I'll kill Crowley and I'll marry Napoleon.
Well, thanks for answering. All right. All right. Do I have to answer?
This is the last hypothetical you ever get out of me, by the way.
Uh, fuck Crowley
I'm
and
not,
the
you don't
tape.
have to answer. I just wanted to do the
Ah,
joke.
damn it. You made me answer the first question. You made me answer the worst one for.
Too late. But yeah, okay. So
Well, kill Crowley.
Randall Carlson is a known entity in the. I'm sure he's part of the Council on National Policy. I'd bet my bottom dollar he's a member of the Council on National Policy. Um, he is a known Joe Rogan entity. And he's one of Graham Hancock's boys. And he his whole
Who's
thing is the Pleistocene, and like the Younger Dryas is like his whole thing, which is like there's a his ideas like there was a catastrophic natural, semi-natural, maybe interstellar phenomenon or stellar phenomenon that resulted in flood, which it's depicted in all the Bibles and mythological stories from all around the world. Very common weed smoker sort of trope here is that everything's the same, man. everything. Oh, we have the story of the Bible and the Noah, and but they have it in China too, man.
Oh, dude, there was this was a heater that got dropped on Rogan by another fellow, not Carlson, but a
Yeah,
fellow
James John
traveler.
Wallace or something.
It was something with an Eddie at the end. It shouldn't be,
Yeah, some Italian guy,
I
something
shouldn't be saying
Moretti,
an
James
Italian.
Moretti, maybe
Um, so
James Moretti.
he dropped a real heater of a theory that Göbekli Tepe, which there's some weirdness about basically the fact that both Göbekli Tepe and Mount Ararat, the site where Noah was, where the
Supposedly he made
ark,
land. He made
yeah,
land. Yeah.
um, are close enough to each other that and the from what's been dug up at Göbekli Tepe, all of the pillars appear to have animals on them, signifying any variety of things, at
Right.
this point. But he drops this thing
Reader's
about
Digest version. Before you do this, Reader's
yeah.
Digest being they carbon dated some of the materials, and it seems to indicate that it was over 10,000 years ago that was
Like
constructed, which
12
is
or
in the
something.
yeah 12 yeah so 12,000 years ago, which was firmly within the time period in which people were supposed to be hunter gatherers, and they didn't have like sort of agricultural society yet. So it's
Hmm.
odd that they had this sort of what's the word distribution of labor enough to
Hmm.
be able to have somebody who's skilled enough to do like carving that people would recognize. So what
Hmm.
is this guy's
Hmm.
theory?
Jimmy Corsetti is the name. Don't wear it out. He says that this could possibly be the site of where Noah performed his first sacrifices, and thanks to God after the end of the flood.
Okay. And then
And
there's
that
a
the
if I'm not
acknowledge,
mistaken,
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, that's the first what do you call it? Rainbow right there.
yeah, right. And the acknowledgement of that as being, I mean, however seriously the historicity of the Bible is going to be taken, you know, throughout the world now. If Turkey, a predominantly, obviously Muslim country, was to acknowledge that as, it would upend, the dynamic of things quite a bit. Probably there'd probably be quite a bit of traffic going there.
Sure.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't Turkey want that? They believe in that's part of the Bible.
Do, do I know that do they?
Yeah,
I
dude.
it's
That's part of the
word for like to the T,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
hence the Abrahamic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's all
So
cool. That's all good in the hood with them.
that gels. That was Corsetti's what do you call it?
He's doing an he's doing
Intention.
a Zionism then, if that's the case. He's trying to
Uh,
say, "Oh, the Muslims are preventing us from being able to get in there." Is that what he's
Perfect.
saying?
Perfect. Yes, that's
Motherfucker, I couldn't believe. I'm
that's
so not surprised by this.
yeah, that was his thing. He said, and if Turkey was to, it would bring a lot of
Is this guy
focus.
trying to act like Muslims wouldn't want to know about where Noah landed? That's batshit. It's part
It,
of their fucking story. It's part
what,
of their entire backstory.
yeah, and which just goes back to my thing is like how seriously is, like the ulterior motive here is that
The
there's,
ulterior motive is
between
Turkey, I guess is what he's trying to say. We don't say that, obviously. I don't know that I like necessarily see eye to eye with Turkey, the current regime in Turkey, but
but if I even sense that the crosshairs of Zionist Western imperialism is
yeah,
going
that's
to
what I mean. It's
land
on Rogan.
on
Yeah.
anyone, yeah, no good.
Wow, we've just cracked the case, folks.
So, but that's a it's a fascinating
I would be
idea.
interested. I would be interested. I mean, listen, I'm not ruling that out, by the way.
Mm,
I'm not ruling out that that's the case, but we'll see. It could be a fucking
mm,
hoax. We don't know.
mm.
We can't go there because it's a fucking war-torn area that's
Yeah,
currently being affected by the Syrian civil war that
yeah,
whoopsie daisy was created by the CIA. So,
yeah.
um,
It is a UNESCO World Heritage Foundation site, though. It's yeah, it is preserved. Don't worry, because you can't go
good. I'm
there.
so
But
glad the UN has its hands on it. Yeah.
all
Um,
that means is there's a bunch of people with guns around it.
sure,
A
sure.
tall fence.
White, blue helmet guys. Yeah.
Mm. And I mean, there's also I read it's funny, this guy right here, Daniel Cohen, the Encyclopedia of the Strange. I pulled this up for some pretty decent Atlantis
Ooh.
uh um stuff, and it's lined up with a lot of what we're hearing and reading now, and contemporary literature about it, and
Right.
and he does provide a pretty the skeptical take that Atlantis is the Minoan civilization that's centered
I wanted to talk
around
about this one
Crete.
too. This
Yeah.
is the one that I'm possibly in most copacetic with. I was also going to say though that it's possible too. This is sort of this dovetails nicely, I think, with the idea that Plato meant it metaphorically. But the idea the this Minoan civilization is like something that like was in the cultural memory of Plato, if you get
Hmm.
what I'm saying. Like this the
15 to
Minoans.
1400 BC,
Right. And
about a
I
thousand
mean, to
years,
be fair, it was again
less
a
than that.
thousand years later or
Okay.
so. But it's like that's that to Plato, that was like medieval time or like Roman times to us.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's like that's obviously you hear about stuff that happened that long ago all the time in our society. So
Hmm.
why would not that be the same for
Hmm.
one Plato?
What else you can do but talk about shit and tell stories?
Of
Can
course.
only
Yeah.
kick your goat so many times
Sure.
to get a funny noise out of it.
So yeah, the Minoan civilization, it's immemorial. It's sorry, immortalized in the Greek
Hmm.
myths, by that story. The guy who has the Minotaur, and he has I forget who he has make it for him. Oh, the guy Daedalus, the guy who created the Icarus wings. The Icarus flew too
Right.
close to the sun.
Hmm.
Daedalus is forced to make a labyrinth for
Labyrinth.
which to
Yeah.
contain the Minotaur. And yes, this is obviously not true, all this stuff, but
Hmm.
that's what I'm saying. But they also have the story that there was a fucking massive earthquake, and the caldera is still there. So there was a massive a volcano eruption that was supposedly 10 times as loud and violent as Krakatoa, which was heard the world over
Mm.
in the late 1800s. It had
Yeah.
infected the whole world's weather systems for over a
Hmm.
year, Krakatoa. And we're to understand that the Santorini volcano
Hmm.
was 10 times as powerful and impactful. So, I
Yeah.
mean, listen, it's got to have some impact on the cultural consciousness, but played a shrimp.
Yeah. Um, Excavations at Santorini at the time called Thera, or
Yeah,
found it,
the city was called Thera.
yeah, intact under ash. The same image you might have of Pompeii or what
Vesuvius.
have you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Tidal waves affected Crete, harbors, agriculture, the capital Knossos. Is that no?
Knossos. Knossos.
Knossos. Okay. Relatively unaffected. So the that was more inland, but
Well,
Minoa
it's Crete.
was
Crete's an island.
oh right, but the Minoan
But
civilization expanded beyond
oh
Crete.
yeah, it was like a mini empire, like a city-state empire,
Hmm.
and yeah. So, but the Santorini island had its own little city under it called Thera, but
Hmm.
that was completely destroyed. But here's the
Hmm.
thing with that Minoan civilization, they were already on their way out when that happened. So that's
Right.
really what indicates to me that this is sort of the cultural sort of representation, re-representation of
Hmm.
that would result in Atlantis, because it's a story of a, obviously, it's making its way into Greek mythology. It obviously had a major cultural impact on like the surrounding peoples. Um, and so, like, how better than to draw upon this cultural sort of touchstone that Plato's audience, I assume, would be able to draw on culturally and sort of orally
Hmm.
to make his political point
Hmm.
in the archetypical story metaphorical, more metaphorical story that is Plato, sorry, that is Atlantis
Hmm.
in his Timaeus
Hmm.
and Critias commentaries. Um,
Right.
so that is, I agree with that. At least I could see there's a lot of basis for that being true.
Mm. It's so funny. People probably were expecting us to talk about where we thought it was,
Well, I
which
wanted to cut. I don't
so
think it
funny.
was. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, we never got to because you when we said Atlantis, uh, we were going back and forth about where it is. Azores, Doggerland,
Yeah.
never, neither, both. Why not? Doesn't matter. Depends on
The-
who's listening.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, let me just say with Doggerland. I think we talked a little bit. No, we were talking about that off air. That was off air. We were talking
Mm,
about
mm,
Doggerland, which is kind of what put me on doing this episode, by the way. But Doggerland is an area between it's in the North Sea, so it's between Scotland and Norway.
mm,
And during the Ice Age, it was land. There was not a sea
mm.
there. It was land, and it's very
It was
shallow there
nice.
even today. Um, and which is why it was like really deadly to mine during the war and during World War I and II.
Mm,
So it's a big deal that they mine that because it's very shallow. And like I said, if the water just went down 20 feet, there would
mhm.
be huge, like almost a continent there. So many people speculated throughout history that maybe that's what Atlantis is. I don't think so, to be honest. Now there could now that is to say, was there a civilization there? I don't know. I'm not ruling it out.
And
Um,
what's crazy is if you haven't seen this, folks, look it up. The Eye of the Sahara.
I was just
It's
gonna bring that up next. Yeah.
batshit, batshit. And what's more batshit yet is how much it fits the myth.
Yeah. Well, so
Um,
that's the same Zionist guy was talking to Joe Rogan about
yeah,
this, wasn't he?
yes.
So where
Uh,
is this? It's in Mauritania, right?
yeah, yeah. What? Northeastern Africa.
No,
Uh,
northwestern Africa.
Northwestern
Northwestern Africa.
is
So
my. I
where like Mali and Ghana is.
think my glasses were backwards. Sorry. But yeah, pretty far inland. I
Pretty
think
far
what
inland. But here's the thing, and
hundreds
this is a fact.
of
And I looked a little
kilometers.
more into this, and it isn't just kook stuff.
Mm,
It seems to be that there was a major part of Africa that was not just lush, because we know that in Ice Age times it makes perfect sense that that would be a lush area, of course, because much of the northern and southern reaches were covered by ice, right? Makes sense. In the middle it would be lush by the equator, right? Okay, what we're now discovering is not only was that area lush during the Ice Age, but also it seems like there was major parts of Africa that were simply covered by water. There was seas where now the
mm,
Sahara Desert is. And we
mm.
know that that is the case because there are massive salt deposits. And after all, I mean, like we all watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where they show like Africa, where I don't remember the French guy goes to investigate the alien evidence or whatever, and they're drying salt out of the desert to sell. That's the only industry in this wherever this fucking backwater is they're laying out salt on blankets in order to sell that as the only export because they live in the fucking desert.
We wash it with piss, so it's clean. It's ready to
Yeah,
go.
that's how Africans talk.
Oh, that's true.
But anyway,
We wash
so
it with piss.
yeah, that's there you go. You did it. What's it called? What was I gonna say? Um, yeah,
Your
okay. So I
urine
have
is
the
a
Eye of
perfect
Africa. So there's
disinfectant.
yes, it's sterile. They know what that word means too. Um, what's it called?
Thanks to the
So it
UN,
this yeah, and Sam
fuckers.
Hyde teaching them how to code or whatever. Um,
Teach me how to code. if I can sit still long enough.
Yeah. So anyway, what's it called? So the eye of the Sahara, or the eye of Africa rather. It's actually really interesting. I'm gonna pull it up. I'm just gonna pull up what it looks like.
Hmm. It's dude. And here's the thing is it's
It's called the
very long
Rishot because it's called the Rishot structure. That's what it's actually called.
Rashad structure, yeah. The the idea that a civilization would, I mean, we don't
So
have
it looks
anything.
awesome, first of
It's
all.
crazy. We don't have anything archaeologically in the way of, people being there as far as I was able to find.
No, there's
Correct me
no
if I'm wrong.
pottery or bones or anything like that, which is a
Just
pretty
salt.
huge, it's pretty huge, it's a pretty huge hole in the theory, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, give me something.
I
Give
mean,
me
like
a
you can find evidence of people like in crazy ass, backwards ass, like isolated places.
give me a candy wrapper or something. Some gum.
So it is remarkable looking. Uh, oh, that's so
Yeah,
funny. Like it looks like, yeah, I think Robert Seffer's trying to say it's supposed to be a blue eye or something because it's
I'm
Aryans,
sure.
because they're
Oh,
Aryans.
golly, man. These people have stars in their eyes, that's for sure.
For sure,
Chill,
yeah.
man.
But yeah, so hang on, let me see if I can get like a little more wide. Oh,
And
here we
that
go.
is
So yeah, this
pretty.
is this is good. See, okay,
That's
so it really does look like this is a shot from space. Oh yeah, this is good too.
that
You
could
could tell
be
it kind of
from
does look like an eye, huh?
that could be from an Edvard Munch painting for all I know.
Is that how it's pronounced? That was Munch.
It's funnier to say Munch, so we'll go with that.
Edvard Munch.
Edvard Munch my shorts, man.
But
Cheer up.
yeah, so it is an interesting thing, and some of this white here you can see like that's salt deposit. That's a really large salt. And oh yeah, here too. This is salt. That is a
Oh
massive,
boy.
massive deposit of
Let
salt.
me
Salt.
let
Love
me
the
get
salt.
at it. Let me add that salt.
You get yeah, go at it like a deer.
Mm.
But yeah, so the reason I say that is it's oh, let me just pull up the hang on. Image of Atlantis city. This is what supposedly Plato says that
Is
Atlantis
it
is like
is it
this.
wow. Looks very
So okay, you
walkable.
can see why you can see why
The 15-minute city in
that you
effect.
see why Robert Seffer inclined viewer would go like, "Wow, dude, it's
If only.
literally yeah." So yeah, a lot of people, a lot of Hotep guys like to say that like Mansa Musa lived there.
Yeah.
So it was hilarious. We was Kangs type shit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't think so.
Which
I think it's probably in reality. I think it's a naturally formed
mhm.
thing, probably.
What's crazy is that it's such a, at that time, what we're talking, they insist on 11,600 years ago, which aligns with, you know, geological events and whatever the hell.
Okay.
Um, you heard that, right? The story that Plato heard in 350 was 600 years old by the time that he,
Oh, okay. So yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think so. I think he was saying it was over 9,000 years ago. It's over
yeah,
9,000 years
right.
ago.
So exactly. So when the Egyptians told that story to his grandfather Solon or grand uncle, whatever,
Whatever.
um,
Yeah.
uh, then that story was already 9,000 years old. So you 9,000 plus the 600 to
So what are they
BC.
saying it lines up with though?
Well, so uh, with
The kooks say that it lines
the younger
the younger
Dryas,
Dryas. Okay,
yeah.
fine.
Um, but the 9,000 plus the 600 from where the story's told from, plus the 2,000 years since BC to AD puts us at 11,600. Um,
Okay.
and that's how they square that circle, as it being the perfect time for a cataclysm for us to, dude, it's literally just a bunch of guys playing with duckies in the bathtub.
Yeah.
There's people starving, man. There's people like real sorrow in the world, like so fucking gay, dude. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I don't care. I don't give a fuck that we could what fly around. I
I
don't
don't
give
think
a
we
shit.
could. I don't think we could fly around. I think that's silly.
It'd be cool if we could, yeah, but
Using what?
I don't know. Love.
Love, energy. Yeah, Care Bear stare. Just using the Care Bear stare and flying around everywhere.
We're not
Fine,
good
I'm
enough for
for it,
that.
man. If you can figure that out for me, I'll work on it with you. But
But it's just misery because Atlantis is what this reintroduction of it into the zeitgeist by the Enlightenment period
yeah.
is you know it's by guys who were Francis Bacon and the like who espouse rationality, empiricism, scientific method above all. And, we, owe quote unquote whatever progress to whatever. But where have we gotten? I mean, we're talking about going to Mars and shit, you know. But we're flailing down here.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I from that same school though, like the Thomas John Stuart Mill type people. They're like their entire thing was like, what about the poor? Fuck them. That's what. Like that was like their whole solution. And so yeah, it is. We have embraced that sort of mindset. I guess is probably what it is. It's like yeah. In fact, I'm not sure which one of these utilitarian guys. Some of them, I think, of course, Malthus is famously. Oh, also Jonathan Swift satirically wrote, "Oh, we should just kill him."
I
Uh,
almost grabbed a
we're
mouth this
gonna kill
book.
him.
I almost grabbed the population book because it felt like it would be adjacent somehow to this.
Yeah,
And it
I think it is.
feels, I truly wonder if we'll find Atlantis in our lifetime. And it's literally just a penal colony that they're gonna send.
Yeah,
It looks nice from the sky, but
it's
love
the
you if you.
Panopticon prison.
Yeah, it's an eye, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
But anyway, so yeah, I don't. So my conclusion, I guess, is do I believe in Atlantis as a metaphor? Yes, I think it's like a Jungian archetype for a lost city, and for like the hubris of man, sort of, because we always talk about how even in ancient Roman times they hadn't like thought of the idea of like an individual yet, and they had to think of an individual like your genius had to be like thought of as like an aspect of your family lineage or whatever.
Mm.
I
You were
think
a part of a whole.
a part of a whole, yes. So that's what I'm getting at is I think like Atlantis is sort of grappling with the same thing. It's like this idea of like a lost, like an entire society gone to hell,
Yeah,
an archetypical city that was on a hill but fell down the hill.
yeah. Jack Jack and Jill went up the hill um, to exchange their lead for gold.
They exchanged their gold for or their lead for auric alchem.
Jack went to piss. Uh, yeah, whatever. Who
Yeah,
gives a
don't get
shit?
scatological with
Yeah,
it.
we're
Yeah.
not. Yeah, that's
But anyway, so yeah, what do you think? What do you think? Oh yeah, also the other thing that people say, oh, is yeah, Randall Carlson's got a lot invested in the idea that it's the Azores.
yeah. Which one might think that I hold some bias toward that theory, but no, I refuse. I don't care. I'll go there happily without thinking I'm, standing. I'm not gonna have
I
a
love
"We
how the
was
way that
kings" moment.
yeah.
I don't give a shit. It's fine. How about I'll be nice to people around me. I'll have an ice cream.
I love how Randall Carlson in these videos where he's like talking about the Azores thing. He's like has this sort of like he has this sort of like tone where he's like sick of explaining it already. You know what I mean? Where he has this
Well,
sort of like exhaust. Well, I mean, it's because he's fat, but he has this sort of like exhausted, like oh, can't believe I'm explaining this shit again, like sort of tone to him. And he's like, well, you see, like Plato specifically said that at the center of the city there was a hot and cold spring right in proximity with each other, and that Poseidon himself like dredged it up through the ground or whatever. And he's like, and you'll see here in the Azores, this mountain, it has a fucking hot and cold spring. Ergo, this is fucking Atlantis, man. And it's like, all right.
You want to know my firsthand experience, Randall, with those
Sure.
hot springs? I fell into one and I hit a few rocks on the way down, and those cuts hit that salt water like sizzle in a pan. All right. I
I
don't give a
bet.
shit about no, they're not, it's not.
He also
Um,
implied that the there's a bunch of earthwork, what do you call them? Aqueducts on the island. And he's like, "Oh, that was the ancient Atlanteans who built that. It wasn't whatever." It's like, dude, fuck you.
how about it was a people whose name you will never know?
Yeah.
How about we will never know? And that's to, that to Francis Bacon and all his fellow and his,
Spookies.
and his goon squad. Um, there are things you will never know, you ought not to know, you need not
Sure.
know. And this is just a burn. It's just, it's just burning
It's a
people's
ghost.
attention.
It's a
Yeah.
it's a spook.
It's a spook. It's a total, yeah. It's a fugazi. Yeah.
It's a
So
spook. But yeah, so best troll. I'll say this to summate. A 2,000
Atlantis.
year, a 2,500-year-old troll. Well done, Plato. Well
You
done.
almost got me. You
You
had me
almost
for a
got this.
minute
Not
there.
this time. We made it up.
Can't get fooled
This one was
again.
embedded in a writer's room. All right. Yeah.
What do we
So
got?
was this
Tell the
story
people.
based? Yes, it was. So www.historyhomos.com for the RSS feed. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, Rockfin, and most importantly, www.historyhomospod.substack.com. You can get every regular episode of the show there and consume it like a normal podcast. You get your own RSS feed even. But more importantly, you could sign up for the premium feed to get weekly bonus episodes in which it's 100% more show. If you like this show and you want to hear more of it, just go sub at Substack and you will get 100% more of it for a low monthly fee. $5, very cheap, like Mad Magazine. But what's it
I'll
called?
give you about tree fitty.
Yeah, I will see. Actually, you know what? If you pay for the year, I think it is about Tree Fitty. Actually, a
Tree
month.
fitty.
Yeah.
What do you want from us, monster? Sorry.
Yeah. So follow us across social media at History Homos Pod. You can join us at our Telegram group. At time of recording, still the friendliest place on the internet. We're doing okay this week. Had a couple incidents. Listen, it's
What's
what
going
it is.
on? Guys. Think
But
of the children.
yeah, no, listen. But yeah, t.me/historyhomos is Telegram, obviously. I said that, but t.me/historyhomos is the channel. t.me/historyhomos chat is the chat. And you can follow. Oh, yeah, I said that. You can, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you'd like to buy a t-shirt, email me your size and address at historyhomos@gmail.com. And die with dignity, folks. Patrick, what would you like to say as your sign off?
Atlantis, rest in piss. Wait. There it is.
Later, homo.
Neon rain on the marble sea, whispers lost in the circuitry. They built their thrones on silver light beneath the slow collapsing sky. Golden holes and poison wine, bodies blurred by lust and time. They danced to the hum of endless more while the tide crept in beneath the door. Can you hear it? A voice through the static. Plato drew prophetic. What if Atlantis was never real? Just a mirror for the things we feel. A dream of power rotting in the dust. Fattened by greed, devoured by lust. We build, we fall again, again. Glass temples shaking in acid synthetic gardens, mirrored pain, virtue drowned